Welcome to another edition of Falcon Focus. We are socially distant and ready to go here for another week on CUWFalcons.com. My name is Matt Benzel. In our second segment, we'll be joined by Alden Goucher. She's a member of the Falcon cross country and track and field teams. But first, we talk women's soccer with the head coach of the Falcon women's soccer team, Ryan Middendorf, kind enough to join us. And by the way, record-wise, history-wise, he will be the longest-lasting NAC Coach of the Year. Most NAC Coaches of the Year last about 12 months. He will get about 17, 18 months with that title. He is the reigning NAC Coach of the Year. And, Coach, thanks for your time. And it's really odd to think, as you and I sit here, last year at this point, the Falcons were already off to a 4-0 start, preparing for a conference opener against the Lakeland University Muskies. What's life been like for you as a women's soccer coach over the last now, say, 6 months?
Well, we're trying to get back to some normalcy. It's nice now. We're training over the last few weeks here, but up until this, the summer months were crazy. I mean, we were just not sure what the fall was going to bring. I mean, the beginning of summer, we were thinking, well, maybe we'll be able to get a season in. Maybe we won't, but we're going to try. And so we were actually meeting as conference coaches weekly throughout the summer months via Zoom and just kind of touching base and seeing where our campuses were with everything. And we were really optimistic, even in like June, even into July, that we were gonna play at least a conference season this fall. And then, I mean, things just kept not necessarily unraveling, but the reality I think became a little bit more right there, where we realized we weren't going to be playing a season. But we're thankful to be training, and we're staying safe. We've been practicing everything with socially distant practices and all of those types of things. And now that we've been in classes for a few weeks, I think we're getting a handle on how to manage and navigate through all of this.
So even with the optimism, at least you guys had in the summertime, but it's still kind of challenging in planning for what may or may not be?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most unprepared I've ever been for a fall season. I've always kind of taken pride in being prepared, months out from the season, and it felt awkward, meeting with the players on Zoom meetings during the summer and saying, guys, I don't have a plan yet, and you just have to hang tight and trust that, just trust the process, and we'll figure it out when we get there, but be ready to adapt. And so if I've learned anything, it's how to adapt to situations. I mean, even yesterday in training, we had all of a sudden, not scares, but somebody's roommate was going to get tested, wasn't sure if they were gonna test positive. So that whole room, I told them to pause and just not come to training. And then all of a sudden, my training plan went out the window half an hour before the session. But that's all right. We're training, we're enjoying it. And we have some sense of normalcy right now.
That's got to be unique because you're the coach, and you talk about talking with the players, and they obviously have a lot of questions. You have a lot of questions. There's more questions than answers out there right now. What do you do, or where do you go for – I got to believe at times it weighs on your shoulders because the players are looking at you for what do we do? How do we do this? How do we navigate through this? Where do you go for your strength?
Yeah, well, I mean – I talk to my wife a lot. She gives me a lot. She centers me because I try not to share with the players my frustrations and my, I try to stay as even as I can, not too up, not too down. But when you're uncertain about something, that's a high level of anxiety for me. But I really try to tame that down. And actually what does tame me down is talking to the players. So that's my most normal, is being around a team and being with my players. So actually, as soon as we start getting together again, I calm down, and then we're good.
And I think one of the things that he said that stands out to me is he talks to his wife. They're still talking. What's been the key? I mean, during the quarantine time.
We know when to separate is, I think, the biggest key because, I mean, she's a teacher too, so she's been teaching virtually during the spring, and then right now she's doing this hybrid model where she's sort of virtual, sort of in person. So it's crazy, but anyways.
Yeah. You mentioned, though, right now, at least for the moment, you guys are practicing a socially distanced, safe practices. Things will pick up a little bit. What do practices look like knowing that there really isn't going to be any matches played until at least March?
Yeah, the most, I mean, I don't want to say frustrating, but the toughest thing for us right now is we're a team and a program that lives on our culture within our program. And a lot of what we do means closeness and being together and literally touching one another. And we can't do those sorts of things right now. So this process is taking a lot longer. I'm asking the new players to just trust the process right now. By this time, we're in the season, and we are a tight-knit group at this point in the season. And we're not right now. I think we're doing fine, but we've just missed some of those things that we normally do as a team. So it looks different in training. We haven't been able to do any sort of, real competitions where we're going at opponents and we apply that pressure to us. So it's different, but again, we're doing something. I think it's been productive. The players are happy to be out there, and I think they're making the most of their time.
Well, it's going to be exciting whenever the season does officially kick off, knowing the Falcons will come into the year the defending NAC tournament champions. And you look back at last fall, and it seems like by now it's been 10 years ago. I mean, with everything that's gone on between then and now. But when you look back at that memorable run, in your opinion, what was key down that stretch to not only win the NAC tournament, but get back to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, there's so much. Coach Hanna and I were actually just sitting down maybe an hour or two ago and just kind of reflecting on last season. And we're starting to prepare for the springtime now and next fall in 21. So we're kind of going through some of those matches, and you forget about some of those things. So some of the people who had great performances, and you're like, oh, yeah, we were tied 2-2 against MSOE, and then Selena comes down and scores 30 seconds later, and now we're up 3-2 and the game is done, we score shortly after that. So some of those moments stand out, and I just think the approach that the team had to every single training session just still stands out for me. I just loved going to training with the players. They loved being there. They worked hard but had fun at the same time, and it was this really great compromise that we were productive every single time that we were together.
I do want to point out a couple of those memorable games and kind of test your memory a little bit. And the first one that jumps out during that homestand toward the end of the regular season, Senior Day, a big one against Dominican, back-to-back regular season champions. That game taking place on the 26th of October, and a 5-0 win. I mean, it's one thing to beat Dominican, but you guys dominated that contest. I guess your thoughts on how that developed?
Well, that was obviously just a great match to be a part of, and that game was really, the score doesn't indicate exactly what that match was all about. Granted, we won 5-0, but Dominican had some chances early on that if they would have, if something would have bounced one way or the other, it would have been much tighter through the game, or the end result would have appeared much tighter. But they were still fighting all the way to the end, so we knew even at the end of that match, okay, we can walk away and feel good now, but if we have to play them again, that's going to be a dogfight. So it almost made me a little bit more nervous to win 5-0 than if it were a 1-0 match.
And we'll bring up the round 2 meeting against Dominican in a moment, but my favorite match of the year was the last one that was played here, the NAC tournament semifinal victory against Illinois Tech. First of all, Illinois Tech over the last couple of years has had the Falcons number, at least in the regular season. Now you face them in a NAC tournament semifinal setting, and what fans may or may not remember is it was less than ideal conditions. It had snowed. I mean, we're talking the first week of November, and it had snowed prior to. There was questions if the game was even going to be played here on the shores of Lake Michigan, but back and forth, high-scoring 5-3 victory.
Yeah, another one of those matches that I will never forget. There are certain, moments of that match that will just stay etched in my brain forever. We were clearing snow off of the field. I had a shovel in hand up until the whistle for kickoff. I mean, we had the plow going through, I think, 3 or 4 times. Rick did a great job clearing that field for us, outstanding. And then, all the coaches were helping in and pitching in, and we had snowbanks. I've never been a part of it before. But, back and forth. And, again, that was one of those matches where everybody did what they needed to do, and then some special performances.
Yeah, the game was tied at 3, and the Falcons scored twice in the last 7 minutes and 57 seconds of regulation. But I want to go back to something I mentioned. I'm guessing at this point we can throw it out there. It's not a secret any longer. But how close was that game to either being postponed or moved from this campus?
Man, up until about half an hour before the match, we were still kind of going back and forth, and we were just waiting to get opinions for the next level. both Roshane and I were back and forth. We weren't sure. We wanted to get the game in because we knew it wasn't going to be great the next day or the next day, and we were in tournament format, so we had to get the match in. So it ended up being, this is the best it's going to be for a few days. We've just got to do it. Other teams are doing it. Let's go. The officials said the field was playable, so we just went for it.
And what's crazy to think is that might be preparation for what you might take on come March.
Yeah, exactly. And Matt, I don't know if I want to think about it yet.
You got time.
I haven't coached a game in March for about 20 years, so we'll see how that's bringing me back to my high school coaching days. But yeah, that's going to be interesting, but we'll deal with that when we get there.
Well, of course, that semifinal set up round 2 against Dominican. You talk about an intense battle, but a heck of a 2-1 victory after falling behind by a goal.
Yeah, I mean, those battles, I just hope that rivalry continues for as long as I'm here and Carlos is down there. I love that rivalry. He and I are really, we're good friends, so it's a great rivalry and fun to play in those types of matches. That's what conference matches are supposed to be about.
You get to the NCAA tournament, you visit Wartburg. In your opinion, for this program, how important was that? Forget the result, but just getting that experience.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's the experience that we needed. We hadn't been back to a national tournament since, what was it, 2004?
2004 against Stevens Point.
So a long, long time, and we've been just on the outside looking in. We just needed to get over that hump to have that confidence that we deserve to be there. The result, yeah, it is what it is. Unfortunate, but that kind of opened our eyes, and some of our young players, they came back this fall uncertain of what the fall was going to bring, prepared to get back there. So I love that about this team. So our young players want to get back there. They're hungry. So now we're ready to take that next step.
And you got some key components, especially when it comes to the attack, back from a year ago. And obviously we'll wait and see, what shape everyone's in come March, but a long time between now and then. But you got to start with Caroline Hoglan, reigning NAC Offensive and Freshman of the Year. How was she so dominant? Where do you begin with that?
Yeah. She has a tremendous work rate, whether it's on the field, off the field. She is committed to winning at everything that she does. So even if she's so right now she's battling a little injury. She's on the sideline working just as hard, if not harder, than anybody else on the field, trying to get herself back to where she will be competitive and winning games and being the best player in the field. That is what drives her.
And you look, when I talk about the attack, besides Hoglan, you have Isabel Downs, you have Selena Eston, Allison McElwee, you have Kylie Harmon in the midfield. I got to believe, at least from an offensive standpoint, you're not too worried about what could be.
Nope. It's I've been part of teams where you, on paper and returning from a season that you had great success, that sometimes you falter a little bit because that pressure is there then. So what we've actually tried to do is alleviate that pressure. Like the pressure is not there for us to score 75 goals in a season. The pressure is to win the game. So if we can have our focus and our mentality more on that than the end product of scoring goals, we're going to be in better shape than if we put that pressure on ourselves.
What did you see from goalkeeper Kaylee Sturkle, who really, she was good at the beginning of the season, but she really stepped up in those big games down the stretch?
I am, knowing where we are right now and the situation where we are, I am so thrilled that Kaylee had the season that she had last season. She was dominant. From start to finish, her focus and her approach to the season at the beginning and followed through the entire season was unlike any other that I've seen. Just went about it the right way, was a great teammate the entire season also, and kept us in games. And I'm so happy that she had that season last season because as this is all unfolding, it's unfortunate, but she got to meet her potential, I think.
So with all this said, as far as who is back, and again, things will change between now and March, are there high expectations based on what you guys did last year? What pieces are back? Is the bar that much higher?
Yeah, and we're a program that we don't shy away from that. So we are always looking to win a conference championship regardless of the situation. So our situation is going to be different in March, but Our approach is win the next game up, and hopefully in the end we'll be in position to win the championship.
So what questions maybe do you have whenever the season starts going in? Are there a lot?
Wow, yeah, I mean, but nothing that I can control right at this moment, right? So what is the weather going to be like in, February 15th when we start practicing? I don't know yet, but I can't worry about it because it's totally out of my control. Where are we going to be with all the COVID testing and things, and how are we going to be managing and navigating through that? I don't know yet because, gosh, it's different. It's not what I thought it was going to be 6 months ago today, So I can't look at that too much yet. And maybe that's what I'm learning from all of this, is not to get too far ahead of myself, but deal with what you got right in front of you.
Now, one thing I'll mention, too, is you're 2 wins away from 200 for-year career at Concordia. You're already the all-time winningest coach in program history. But I'll wrap up this interview by asking you about the schedule, because if everything goes according to plan, the season will start as of now on March 13th, a home date against the Marian University Sabres. 7 regular season matchups are scheduled. 4 will be at Fitting Field. Again, we'll wait and see. But what do you make of what is being laid out there? What could be in the spring as far as the schedule makeup goes?
Cold weather, but it's going to be awesome. I mean, I just can't wait to get back out there and playing a meaningful match. And our players can't wait either. So I'm just really looking forward to getting back to as normal as we can be. I mean, this has been the ebbs and flows of my life was thrown off because for the last 18 years, I know exactly what's happening during the summer months in preparation for the fall, and then off-season, winter, and spring non-traditional season, and now it is totally different. So I'm just looking forward to getting back out there and working with our team in a capacity of prepping for a match. So I'm excited.
Well, Coach, can't wait to see you back out there. Can't wait to see a soccer game, to call a soccer game. And as of right now, March 13th is that date. Again, stay tuned to CUWFalcons.com. Things are changing on a regular basis, so who knows where we will be come March 13th, but we're hoping for soccer against Marian. What we do know is when we come back here on Falcon Focus, we'll talk cross-country, track and field with Alden Goucher. Stay tuned. That's coming up here on CUWFalcons.com.
God never intended for us to live a comfortable life. He created us to go outside our comfort zones, to use our gifts and talents in the service of others, to live a you-first life in a me-first world. At Concordia University, it's our mission to prepare you for that path, so that you stand apart from the crowd and live a life that's actually uncommon. Concordia University. Live uncommon.
We are back on Falcon Focus. We're keeping it socially distanced, and now it's on to segment number 2 as we talk cross-country, track and field with an athlete, senior Alden Goucher, kind enough to join us. And it's been, I got to believe, interesting for you from an athlete standpoint because, back in March, you're preparing for an outdoor track and field season, and here comes COVID-19, and all of a sudden the season is canceled. What was your reaction upon finding out that there would be no outdoor track and field?
It was very shocking because of after winning my conference championship in triple jump, it was like I was excited to get to the outdoor season and hopefully continue to get those PRs and continue to get those championships, but unfortunately it had to be put on hold because of COVID, so it was a little disappointing.
So how challenging then, okay, that was outdoor track and field. Here we are some 6 months later, you're preparing for cross-country. We're further along than, say, back in the spring and trying to figure out when something may or may not happen. So when you talk about, now, has it been challenging just trying to figure out, is there going to be a cross-country season?
It was pretty challenging in the beginning because once outdoor season was canceled, then I was beginning to train for cross-country. And, it takes a little bit to get my body readjusted to the distance instead of the impact of the jumping. And so once I found out that cross-country was also canceled, it was also pretty disappointing, but you do have to continue to keep training and stay on top of it.
So what do you, I guess from an, athlete standpoint, at this moment, what do you know as far as what a cross-country season may or may not look like?
Well, today we actually do have a relay, so we're having just a little, outside relay. It's all virtual, so we are just doing it around campus. We are going up against some pretty big teams. There are a few D2, D1 teams, but it's all virtual, so it'll
Oh,
be
is that
cool to
unique?
Yes, it is. So we'll be able to see some cool results by the end of the day. But there is also October 5th, we're having a meet with WLC. So
But I want to go back to the virtual thing for a second, 'cause
yes.
that's pretty unique, and that's different. So, from what I understand from what you just said, is it going to work out where you guys are all running your own course and then kind of linking it up with all the other schools, or how does that
So
work?
for the virtual, so we're in teams, so it's 2 people, and it's a relay technically. So
Okay.
we're all in groups of 2, and then it's for 3 miles. So one person will run a mile, and then they'll wait, and then have their other teammate run a mile. So we're all doing it at campus loops. So
Have you ever done anything like this before, even in practice?
no, well for practice a little bit, we've done like mile repeats, but nothing quite like the relay that we're doing today.
So what do you, how do you prepare for something like this, or what are you maybe anticipating?
So, I think everybody's gonna do really good actually because we're all on top of training, even though the season was canceled. But I'm expecting some good things from the team, like, and it'll be encouraging to actually have some type of race to continue to keep going. So.
You mentioned switching gears once you found out outdoor track and field was canceled, switching gears now preparing for cross country. How do you go about preparing, and maybe what have you done maybe to stay in shape knowing that, the season could happen at any moment?
I have just been working on like the essentials, like my form and keeping up on endurance and speed. So just like working on those elements also helps me to keep going, so I know I can stay ready for whatever is going to happen.
And we'll talk about in a little bit your versatility when it comes to the track and field, some of the events that you're involved in. But it's being proposed as of right now, with everything that's being moved, that in the NAC there could be a cross-country championship, but that could take place in late March. All of a sudden you're looking at indoor track and field, you're looking at a cross-country championship, and then outdoor track and field. Would that be tough for somebody like you? Because obviously, you're mentally in the indoor-outdoor track and field season, and you got to switch to the cross-country mindset. And again, with your versatility, you got to go right back to getting that track and field mindset.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a problem. I feel like I was a little surprised when I found out that the NAC was being moved to March because I know there's also a few other athletes that continue to do a little bit of shorter distance or do field events. So it'll be a little bit interesting when it does pop up. We're still kind of on the edge with that, but
if that happens, I mean, again, not that you can change it one way or the other, but do you like that? Is it maybe a little more challenging, maybe having to prepare for so many things in a short amount of time, or do you prefer that?
I do prefer that, although because I'm just used to jumping around to different types of events. But I think it'll be a little bit of a mind readjustment and trying to get everything set. It's all mental.
And that's got to be difficult too, because you go from cross country now, where you may have a meet or two, whether it be in person, virtual, whatever the case may be, to then all of a sudden you don't have cross country again possibly until this championship.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it all plans out. But with the team that we have now, everybody's very motivational and trying to keep up on everybody, just making sure that they're getting their mileage in, and we're all focusing on doing core and everything. So it'll be good to continue.
You're listed as a captain for the 2020 cross-country season. What does, first of all, being a captain mean to you?
Being a captain to me means that you keep the team together, you continue to motivate them, you push them to do their best, and, just be that person that, while you're on a long run, just talk about your day, just trying to get to know people and, encouraging them to, continue whatever they're doing.
Is there added responsibility being a captain in a year like this, where you have so many emotions and you have so many questions, and we talked about it in the first segment with Coach Middendorf, it seems like there's more questions than answers, and you're not one of the leaders. So besides the coaching staff, athletes are probably looking at you for guidance. Is there added pressure in a COVID-19 year?
It is a little bit more pressure just because you have to always make sure everybody's wearing their masks, double check, making sure they're all the way up, and you almost feel like that stickler because you're like, hey, social distance, 6 feet, but, I mean, at this point, you just got to make sure that they're doing it and just keep.
And you got to make sure they got their hand sanitizer.
Yes, the hand sanitizer
Would you like some?
Yes.
There we go. See, we're keeping it safe here. We're keeping it safe on Falcon Focus. But let's look back at your collegiate cross-country career. And it's, go back a little bit in time. 2017, your freshman year, you competed in 5 meets. What do you remember about that first season? What are your maybe what are you most proud of year number one?
Well, my first season actually was where I still had my PR, so I feel like I was the best trained at that point. Unfortunately, did lead to an injury, like in my sophomore year. But overall, my my freshman view of it, I was a little scared because you're meeting up with all these collegiate athletes. You don't know what's prepared, but honestly, it was a lot of fun, and we all pushed each other so well because we got our conference title. So
Yeah. You mentioned the injury, though.
Yes.
2018. What happened, and what was the course that you had to take to get yourself back into tip-top shape?
So for a while, actually, I didn't even know like what was going on. I was trying to figure out what happened. I was having hip flexor problems. So, and as a runner, you use your hip flexor and
Oh, I'm
absolutely
sure.
everything. So it was a little bit hard to figure out. And then just trying to strengthen it, just trying to like do a whole bunch of medical visits to figure out what's going on until we figured out by December that it was a hip flexor injury. So.
Well, then you came back 2019, and you ran in all 6 races.
Yes.
You had a best, at least your fastest time. You saved the best for last at the NCAA Midwest Regional, 26 minutes, 8.9 seconds. When you look back at that particular race, that meet, what stands out to you? What was key to that time?
So that time, actually, that was when our girls team, like we clicked. Like that was the time that we were all running together. We had a pack of about 4 people, and we were still together by the second mile. We were all sticking together, and once we passed that second mile and everybody was still there, it was just the most exciting moment. I was like yelling. I was like, yes, like let's go. Like that was probably the best moment of my season.
Well, it leads me right into my next question. It's almost like you saw my questions ahead of time. Strategy-wise, especially cross country, do you have a strategy going into a particular meet, or is it just kind of you kind of see how it plays out?
Going into a meet, I mean, Russ always says, pace the first half, race the second. So that's what I kind of focus on, and just going through my race and mentally preparing the whole time.
Is it easier when you know the course? I guess when you just you go into a meet, you know the course. Is it easier to come up with some kind of a strategy or know what you want to do versus if you are unfamiliar with a course?
Yes, if you're familiar with the course, it's just so much easier to visualize, where that hill is and where you have to put more energy into it, especially the Oshkosh meet. The whole course is just hills, so you just got to prepare and you got to know where all those hills are and just know where to place your energy. But in the end, it's all mental toughness.
So do you have a favorite course?
It was that Oshkosh.
It is?
Yeah, because
Okay.
towards the end, you might have been going up and down those hills the entire time, but that last, 200 meters is just straight downhill, and you pick up so much speed.
Is that in Winneconne? Is that little golf course they compete at?
I think so. I can't remember the name of the golf course,
Okay.
but it's a pretty...
Because they've hosted some of the national championships there in the past, so I know it's gotten some great reviews in the past. And
It's a great...
Alden also gives her the thumbs up. That's a Winneconne. But let's switch your mindset a little bit to indoor-outdoor track and field, because that, again, will come up hopefully soon in the wintertime and into the spring. But you're listed as a mid-distance runner. You've been involved in the long jump, the triple jump. You've been part of a 4x400-meter relay team. I guess among all those different events that you're a part of, do you have a favorite among that grouping?
Yes, actually my triple jump, that's my favorite. That's like my baby. I hold on to that event so much. There's just a thrill to it. I don't know what it is. After 3 jumps, you get to be able to keep building on what your first jump originally was.
So how busy, typical, let's say it's a one-day meet, how busy is your day?
It's usually very busy, especially during conference. Usually I have 4 events. I'll do, I did long jump, triple, 400, and then there's sometimes a finals, so 400 finals, and then 4x4 at the end of the day. So.
You ever get a chance to catch your breath?
I know. I keep up on a lot of Gatorade and water.
No kidding. And how different is it? Because in so many of these events, it's an individual thing. Obviously helping the team score, but then you go from individual to a 4x400 meter where now you're relying on your teammates as well. How much different is that?
Honestly, I feel like it's so much more exciting, especially because that's the end of the meet, and that's where all the teams come together and they get you all hyped up, and it's just like so much adrenaline is pumping through the whole crowd, so it's awesome.
Now, before the coronavirus pandemic, there was the 2020 indoor track and field season, and you competed in 6 of those meets. And I guess when you look back at it, how do you feel that last season went for you?
I feel like that last season, it was a little bit harder. It was harder to get back into it just because of just injuries from previous times and trying to work back up into it. But once that conference meet hit, it was just like focused in on everything, and everything was like falling into place, all the training.
Yeah, bringing home that championship, your baby, the triple jump, 11.29 meters, a career best for the title. You can still see her post-meet interview on CUWFalcons.com with Jeremy Crawford. He caught you right after.
I know.
But how exciting was that? I mean, your junior year, I mean, you still can, even top that. But to win a championship in this NAC championship.
I honestly wasn't expecting anything. I just was trying to focus on certain forms and like how to like push myself to continue to go further. I was a little bit down just because my season hadn't been going how I planned to, but once that one jump came through, all the adrenaline of just the whole NAC environment came through, it just pushed me to continue to go.
So to wrap it all up, let's bring it back to the classroom. You excel not only on the field competition, but also in the classroom, and you're listed as a graphic design and marketing major. So whenever school does come to an end for you, what do you hope to do with your majors?
I hope to eventually work at a design firm or work for a freelance, just start picking up a whole bunch of like package design, logo design, just a whole bunch of stuff like that, or join a marketing firm. So I'm still a little bit all over the place with it, but whatever happens because of this crazy world we're in right now. So.
Well, Alden, thanks a lot for your time. Best of luck. Hopefully, again, cross-country, a couple of meets on the docket, a virtual meet, another one coming up in October, and then hopefully we're talking indoor, outdoor track and field as well in the winter, spring, and a cross-country championship somewhere in there as well in late March. That's Alden Goucher. Thanks also to Ryan Middendorf for joining us. This has been Falcon Focus, and again, as long as it's safe to do so, we'll be back with you next week right here on CUWFalcons.com.